kind of what I want to look at is how does pain and suffering connect back to the founding of this country, of Thomas Jefferson's words of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Hello, everybody. I'm very excited to have my new sidekick here to help me stay on task and keep us moving. Carrie Resendiz, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Glad to be here.
Good. Well, hey, so today we're going to talk about attorneys and the dirty, rotten, scoundrel, terrible, pain and suffering seeking people that they are.
Awesome.
I know, actually, no. But I do want to talk a little bit about kind of what people think of attorneys being bad, and really what it comes down to is this idea of the pain and suffering, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I can recall before I got my license how, you look at the back of the phone book, and that's what I thought of attorneys, right? They're just after money, they're greasy, or they're just after money, they're just want to exploit people. That's what it is.
Ambulance chasers.
Ambulance chasers is right. And the biggest thing that is associated with that is this idea of pain and suffering, right? When I say pain and suffering, what do you think?
Ouch.
No.
I think no thank you.
Yeah. Well, but then, so the big thing what people think about are like your McDonald's hot coffee case, where they think about frivolous lawsuits. But kind of what I want to look at is how does pain and suffering connect back to the founding of this country, of Thomas Jefferson's words of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? That's what I'm going to talk about today. And for me, I'm an American, right? Tried and true, fly the red, white, and blue all the time. I also like history, right? So some of the things that we want to look at today is how is it that pain and suffering might connect to, how is it that pain and suffering of today can connect to what Thomas Jefferson wrote in this Declaration of Independence? So really, in looking at this, what we want to start with is kind of in today's words, what is pain and suffering, right? So imagine this. You've got this personal injury trial. It comes to the end. The attorneys have done all of their arguments. They put on their evidence. It goes to the judge. And you have this judge sitting way up there reading these rules, these instructions to a jury. And this is actually one of the rules. It's in California, it's the Casey instructions. And it's 3905A, and it has to do with physical pain, mental suffering, and emotional distress, also known as non-economic damages. So it says that, you can, the injured party can seek past and future damages, harms, for physical pain, mental suffering, loss of enjoyment of life, disfigurement, physical impairment, inconvenience, grief, anxiety, humiliation, and emotional distress. So this is what a judge says that people get to, that they get as part of injuries. And so in looking at it, what I like to look at, and a number of years ago I was thinking about what is the connection, where does that come from, right? Because it was sometime in the 70s or 80s, some big businesses, they tried to, tort reform tried to really attack compensation for wrongdoing because the businesses were doing wrong and they were having to pay for it. So the biggest way they went to were these general damages. They're referred to as the non-economic damages, but what is termed this pain and suffering. So what I want to look at, though, is going back to the Declaration of Independence, right? And so with it, it's like 1,337 words long.
The Declaration of Independence is?
The Declaration of Independence.
Oh, okay.
Right? It's broken up into about
I knew
three.
that.
Oh, good. It's broken up into three parts, right? You have this preamble. Then you have this idea of this grievances against King George, right? So they have to, the founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson has to come up with these ways. How is it that we can break free of England rightfully, legally, all these things? So most don't know it, but that's like 800 words of it. 60% of the Declaration is all of these grievances. And then you have kind of the conclusion, which is the actual declaring independence. Oh, so I actually brought a couple things today for that too.
Oh.
So I did.
Props?
I did.
Oh my God.
I brought some props. Let me put this on for those who can't see us. I am as I said, red, white, and blue all day long.
Oh, okay. You pull it up a little
so
bit.
This is I would encourage you to watch. I would encourage you to watch.
Yeah.
Not just listen, but watch.
He's got sweatbands on the wrists. Okay.
So you know what? Okay. I don't want to mess up my hair, so I'm
no,
not
probably
put this
not.
on.
Better not. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, there's that USA bib over there.
So all of these, but the most important comes down, right? So you have kind of the major part that, and so this is Thomas Jefferson. You know, there's a crew of like 3 or 4 that were supposed to write it. Mm-hmm. They all figured, hey, we need one person to do it. Thomas Jefferson he'd been doing this, right? Because he just come out of Virginia, writing their Constitution, writing all of what they got there. And
it's like the school project, and he's the one who's doing all the work, and everyone's puts their name on it. Is that what happens? Right?
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah. Listen, I was the lead, so go ahead.
Yeah. I was looking for the lead. But so when he comes down to here, and I love the whole thing, right? Where he comes down. This is what people think about when they think about the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are, and here's the important part, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so for me, what's crazy is, this phrase comes from John Locke from many years before, but he had said life, liberty, and property, right? So there's a specific reason. Thomas Jefferson isn't just choosing these words out of the air saying, hey, let's just throw in pursuit of happiness. But when you look at it in the context of you have this, 60% of it are these grievances against King George, against England, the colonists, they're over there, they're doing their thing. It's this new world. They're trying to make their way. They're trying to do the best they can. And they're taking heat from England, from King George. And so this is their way of saying, we're here, and our rights are life, liberty, and not just property, but the pursuit of happiness. And so when you're kind of looking at what this looks at, what the pursuit of happiness is looking like, is it's not just about, he wasn't guaranteeing that you're going to be happy, right? This isn't, hey, you're an American, we're here, USA, that means you're happy. It means that you get to pursue happiness. Right? And this isn't necessarily like, from what they say, it's not about chasing happiness. It's about practicing happiness. Right. Which we should still do today, right? It's like people who are unhappy, I'm like, well, have you tried being happy? Exactly. Exactly. And it comes down, it's written into our law. That's crazy, by the way. What part? That it's written into our law. Well, yeah. Right? I don't think that we think about that enough and realize part of being American is the pursuit of happiness. This is why I'm sitting here with my USA. Looking good, Pendergast. I've got my wristbands, red, white, and blue. But so they're looking at, so what is the pursuit of happiness, right? And so if you kind of think about it, you have this sort of general idea about, so what is it that makes us kind of happy, right? And the government has to be a part of it, right? In some sense, the government has to be a part of it. And so because they're either allowing or not allowing for your ability to practice happiness. But in looking at this, you're looking at health and safety. The government has some take in that. Food, medicine, safe living conditions, human flourishing. Do you like this? Does it work? Does it not? This is kind of like the general speaking. But internally, and what I see particularly as we look at personal injury cases, internally, it has to do with a fulfillment within yourself, right? And so I've heard this described as kind of 3 things. You have a pleasant life, where enjoying daily kind of pleasantries, enjoying the daily activities. You have the good life, identifying kind of your skills for enrichment, and then you have kind of, what it is that you as a human can do to make the world better, to make it, whether it's just your world. And for a lot of people, that's their employment. I think for most people, you either find happiness in your employment or you don't find happiness. Well, it's a huge chunk of your life, right? Think of where you spend all your time. That's why people have work wives and work husbands. And exactly. And what it does is it gives you if it's right, it gives you this deep sense of fulfillment, right? And so going back to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, when you go back to these words, so looking at, again, our law, what a judge would read at the end of a trial in a court, he's going to say, you jury, if you decide that there's, the other side's at fault, they were harmed, you get to look at this pain and suffering, right? This non-economic damages, these general damages that say that get to pay you for physical pain, for mental suffering, loss of enjoyment of life, kind of rings true to what we were talking about, disfigurement, physical impairment, but then inconvenience. So, hey, it's not convenient to have to go to the doctor.
Right.
It's not convenient to be kept up at night. Grief, anxiety, humiliation, and emotional distress. And so what it's looking at is it's saying this is the absence of being able to practice happiness.
That's if people do their jury duty, by the way. Yeah. The importance of jury duty.
A little plug that you should show up for the jury duty when you're called. Show up for the jury duty when you're called. So if you're looking at it, this is from what I'm looking at, and let me know your thoughts. So we have pursuit of happiness. That's what it meant. And then now we're looking at this idea that this is something that the law says you're entitled to if you've suffered harm, if you've had some sort of accident. Like, I'm a personal injury attorney, so if you had an accident, if you're a police officer, you get hit by a car, you can no longer do your police offering stuff. So now typically what happens, as you were saying, your work wife, your work husband, but you have a group,
your community,
your community, your social structure. So if your social structure there, where you're helping, you're giving, they're giving to you, and if you're unable to do that, all of that is taken away.
Well, then you don't have income, right? So then you don't have money to spend on things that you enjoy outside of work.
And so it's just this sort of downward spiral. It's taking you farther and farther away from the practice of happiness. Whereas, and then the law is recognizing this. So no matter what the tort reform has been trying to do, like it is embedded in the law. If you talk to judges, everyone will agree this is there. It's real. And so for me, that's kind of some of the stuff that I've been looking at.
And also, just for clarity, like tort, those are like the basic laws?
Oh, so tort law, thank you. Tort law has to do with negligence stuff, right? So if somebody has some wrongdoing and it's not, it's not intentional. Actually, torts can be intentional, but it just, if there's a harm, if there's a wrong done. So easy, if you're rear-ended, right? You're on the 5, you're on the 405, you're on whatever you may be driving on, and you get rear-ended, bam. That's a tort. It's negligence.
Okay.
Right? Those sort of things. If you fall somewhere because somebody left it wet and you couldn't see it, or there's something else, that's what a tort is. It's just it's the law. So you have a wrong.
Yep.
There's a tort. You go to court. You have a verdict in your favor, and then the jury gives you money for that. And when they're looking at money, this is what they're looking at. So all of this, what it comes down to is, what is the fulfillment in life, right? And that's what for me, this is what's kind of been wild to look about, is you think so if Thomas Jefferson is saying this sort of stuff way back when, right?
Yeah, when was that, by the way?
So this would have been in the 1776.
Right, yep.
Right?
1776. Dun, dun, dun.
Red, white, and blue.
Yeah, okay.
And so, what's going on right there, right? And so, even back then, they're thinking this. And so, it kind of, it spreads as the United States get bigger, as more territory is gained, as all of these sort of things happened. That sort of thought, that sort of philosophy, and I don't think it's a political philosophy. I think it's an American philosophy, that you have this idea that if there's a wrong, and you are limited by that wrong, then there should be something to make it better, right?
To make it right.
To make it right. And so here's the thing is that, like, an attorney, I can't unbreak an arm. Let's say break an arm. I can't unbreak your arm. All what we can do is get you the value of that broken arm. And
get you back to happiness.
Get you back to happiness. And so some of it, what I think about is this, is looking at kind of the real world examples. I see it in my practice a lot with, working men. Not just, I mean, I'm not excluding women, but just working men. You look at construction workers, you look at peace officers, law enforcement, all of these sort of things. These guys get their kind of social network, their real social network,
their
values in the job. And so then not only your
identity,
yeah, you're helping others, you have this wonderful sort of life, you're able to practice your happiness, and then, as you said, you have this income coming in. What do you do with your income? You're supporting,
spend it.
You spend it back. All of that sort of stuff. It's you spend it, you pay for your house, pay for your kids, all of these sort of things that give you a fulfillment. You know, hey, if you're a parent, if you can take care of your kids, you feel good about that.
Right.
If you can't take care of your kids, you feel bad about that.
Right.
And if you can't take care of your kids because somebody did you wrong, well, then we go down to
you're mad. You're mad about that.
You're mad about that.
Yeah.
And you want to seek redress. And the law says, I think, my opinion is that because of these words of what Thomas Jefferson wrote, it stuck it in, because it wasn't just some sort of strange thing that was put in there. You know, there was tons of.
He was deliberate.
He was deliberate.
Yeah.
And then not only that, but just the document itself, because there are tons of documents out there upon the founding of the country, right?
Yep.
But this is the one. Even if people don't understand what's all in it, if you say to anybody, "Hey, have you ever heard of the Declaration of Independence?" Carrie, have you ever heard of the Declaration of Independence?
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of that sort of stuff, right? But with happiness, it's in everything that we do, right? And so if you look at it, what I like to think about is this. So think about, like, what's the purpose of it? Words have meaning. It's think about this one, right? Okay, so follow me here just for a quick second.
Okay.
So advertising, right? Let's say you see an advertising, you say, hey, come to Vegas. When I say come to Vegas, what are you thinking about? Are you thinking about, hey, if I come to Vegas, that's going to suck?
Right. No, I'm thinking I'm going to have a good time and it's going to stay in Vegas.
Yeah. That too. But what about if that path is narrowed or if it's taken away from you, then there's this loss. And what I'm saying here is that I think that it goes back to the Thomas Jefferson, to the pursuit of happiness. That's kind of what they're talking about. So when I look at about it, kind of how do I approach this in my work, right? And I remember, I don't know, like 10 years ago, I was really looking at this jury instruction and thinking about, okay, how can I express this in what I do, right? And so looking at it, if you were going to find out something that is there, the pursuit of happiness, and an absence of that, something that was taken away, then you have to look at it with kind of compassion, with empathy, and you have to ask questions. Now, I don't know if you know this about me or not, but I sometimes like to ask a lot of questions.
Oh, right. Sure, you do.
I learned it from somebody. So you sit down with somebody, find out what is going on. One quick example, I had this case where this woman was hit by a car, and we went out and talked to, she wouldn't tell us. She just couldn't tell. So I'm fine. And then we talked to her daughter, and basically the daughter says, hey, when we're sitting around the table, I asked my mom for food, and she goes to hand me the food, and her arm gives out because her shoulder was given out. And so you think about it, like this is a mother. Her whole job in life is to feed her kids, and she no longer can feed her kids. And so that comes back to what Thomas Jefferson said way, way, way long ago, and how that connects to today. So in looking at this, and that to really understand a personal injury, right, to really understand what's been righted, what's been wrong, you have to look at these words. You have to look at what they mean, how they all pertain to each other, and you have to look at how that works within the client's own experience, right? And so looking at it from the idea of what does the Declaration of Independence have to do with these jury instructions and have to do with the personal injury? And all of that kind of gets wrapped up into one. What Jefferson was concerned about there, what the Founding Fathers were concerned about there, is something that we're still concerned about today. And in looking at this, to pass this over is something that if you pass this over, you're missing something that's kind of cool and profound. To really to investigate, to dive into somebody's life, to see what is it that makes them tick, to see what is it that brings them happiness. But on the other hand, to dive into it is to really get to know how trauma, how injury, and how kind of these losses and struggles can impact you.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be able to dive into this in the injury context is hugely important. And it talks about, and it really comes down to, for me, it comes down to me kind of participating in my own happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And what it makes me think about is that at Rory Law, every day is the 4th of July.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, everybody, for listening, and for many of you for watching Unseen Impact today, where we had kind of a slightly different version, a shorter thing talking about Thomas Jefferson's words and how they impact the world today. I remind you, please listen to us wherever you listen to your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, whichever sort of platform you like. And as well, you can watch it and listen to it on YouTube. So make sure to follow the YouTube page. Make sure to follow our Instagram feed, our Facebook. Follow us there to where you can see this and many more.